Behind me here I've got the Varla Pegasus e-scooter, or as they call it, the city commuter. Now, having used it for just over 100 kilometers, in this video I'm going to go over my thoughts on what I like, what I don't like, and what I would like changed. So stay tuned and let's go for a ride. So before we go on the ride, I thought I'd just go through of the specs of the e-scooter. So we've got two motors, one in the front, one in the back, each doing 500 watts, but they're each capable of doing 800 watts each. So you can get a maximum of 1600 watts when you put it in dual power mode. You can initiate also just rear power if you don't need the extra power, but going up hills, you definitely want both wheels going. We've got suspension on the front and the back, which comes in very handy when you're going over bumps, which I'll show you the suspension working here. And then we've got these fat tires on the front and the back, which are actually unable to be punctured, which is a good use because you don't want to be changing the tires every now and then if they do get punctured for some reason. Note that you don't get a lot of tread on the tires, so I wouldn't recommend riding this on soft gravel and sand and stuff like that, because you could pose the risk of it sliding and losing control. But that's just what I think. Now we've got front and rear disc brakes. They're not hydraulic, but they do work very well from what I've experienced. You do have a rear light as well that turns on when you're braking and when you manually turn the lights on as well. Mine's currently inactive because it fell off going over a speed bump. However, they are sending out a replacement, hence that's why I've got the tape on there at the moment. And on the side you do have the charging port for when you want to charge it. You can activate the front light manually for when you're driving at night, which will come in handy. It's not super bright, but it's definitely capable of lighting up the road in front of you. So briefly going over the handlebars and display. Now on here we've got three buttons which do their own thing, as well as change things on the display. We've got the throttle on this side, front and rear brakes. Now if we look at the display, it's still got the screen protector on, so that's probably why the bubbles, but I don't want to be taking that off because I don't need to. 122 kilometers done, and then you've got power level and speed in kilometers. I think you can change it to miles per hour as well, and we've got an energy bar for the battery. So pressing the button here, we can go through how many kilometers done. You can set a trip timer, voltage, which is quite important, currents, and guess other stuff. Time I haven't set up, I'll just keep it on the trip or the voltage for me. And then currently it's on level 3. You've got level 2, level 1 being the lowest, and you can see it says speed. When it's on speed, that's just initiating the rear motor, and if you hold down it will say speed max, and that's when both motors are in action. This is when you get the top speeds. Now by default it does come limited to 20 kilometers per hour speed. So if you hold down these two buttons, it does take you to this like secret menu. In the actual booklet you get, it tells you what each section of the menu controls. I'm not 100% sure on like what each one controls at the minute until I read the book again, but I know that if I go to number 8, there we go, 8, I've set it to 60, and it doesn't go to 60 anyway. I think the max is you can get 48 kilometers using the motor, but it does come limited to 20, just so you know, in case you think that it's default. Grippy handlebars, but I've got something to talk about them later on, so bear in mind on that. And yeah, at the minute that is the scooter, so let's go for a ride and then we'll talk about it more and my experiences. So of course, safety first. I've got my helmet on and I don't actually have an action cam, so I was wondering how am I gonna take you on the ride with me. So I've kind of MacGyvered this using a tripod. Hopefully it works, and hopefully it works well. If it doesn't, you can't blame me for not trying. So you can see I'm not even touching the throttle, and we're already at 23, 24 kilometers. Now something to note is the scooter is rated for 28 kilometers an hour. No, The scooter is rated to go at a speed of 28 miles per hour, which is over 40 kilometers an hour. And as well as that, it's supposed to have a range estimate of over 28 miles an hour. Now, I'll tell you right now that highly depends on the weight of the person, if you're going uphill, if you're going downhill, what kind of terrain you're riding on. Just because the different kinds of terrain will put different kind of strain on the battery life. Obviously, if you have someone that weighs 150 pounds, it's going to be a lot different on the battery life compared to someone who weighs 250 pounds, which of course works for any electric scooters and bikes, etc. But just keep that in mind. Having done 100 kilometers on the scooter, I can say for my weight, because I'm pushing I would guess around 240 pounds, 250 pounds, as well as the equipment on my back and stuff like that. When I take it for a ride when it's full, I'm getting approximately, I would say if I get 15-20 kilometers on a single charge, I would be happy. Unless I'm going downhill like this, where I'm not using any battery, then obviously, yeah, I can go much further. However, where there's a downhill, coming back is always an uphill. So going on that uphill is going to use considerably more energy than it is going down. And I would just say now, if you're not using the actual motors driving downhill, depending on how the slope of the downhill, you can get insane speeds. I've had people try the scooter that have gotten speeds of 50-60 kilometers an hour, which is obviously not recommended, and you should always wear a helmet for safety. But yeah, if you have the motors kicked in, then you have different speed assist settings. So for situations like this where the road's kind of straight, perfectly fine, and because we're on like tarmac, perfectly fine to use just the rear wheel with no issues at all. And I can comfortably get from between 20 to 25 kilometers an hour. And then as it speeds up more, it can go speed up. Something to note is, no matter what setting you're on, the acceleration won't be something that you're like, whoa, like that shocked at, because the settings that the actual scooters on, which they don't recommend changing, it's more of a slow acceleration to the top speed instead of some fast jerky motion at start. So I've stopped at this location, which is just one of the fun benefits of having a scooter like this, which you can just go on the ride and stop anywhere basically you want. Some things I want to talk about is the price. Currently I think it's priced around $1,200. Now that is a lot of money for anyone, I'd say, but just like any purchase, you have to decide, is that in your budget? Is that something you can spend? And is that something you want to spend on an e-scooter? Bear in mind this thing weighs 30 kilos, so I think it's over 60 pounds in weight. So it's not something you want to be carrying up, say 3-4 flights of stairs. That's why that is why they do call it a city commuter, because it's something you ride around in the city to get to different places. I'm currently riding it around, I'd say almost like the countryside, but on the roads. When it comes to, like I said, gravel road like this, I would not recommend riding it, just because them fat tires don't have a lot of tread on them. So you do run the risk, like I said before, you do run the risk of slipping and injuring yourself. So the handlebars, they're very nice, very grippy, tightened all the way, but something I'm not fond of, even though they're tightened all the way, they can still turn. So that's something I would change. Goes for the other one as well, and trust me, I have tried tightening them more. You can't really tighten them anymore. The brakes are okay. Over time they do take longer to activate, but you can tighten them on the actual brake cables, which you will have to do over time. And then that's the folding mechanism there. This, I don't know if this is actually for the folding mechanism or not, but it came with this Velcro strap conveniently placed around this section. So I would assume that when you undo that, the handlebars go down, and then they've got this latch which they clip into. So let me lift the latch up so you can see there, and then that clips into that, and then you can carry it with one or two hands upstairs or anywhere you might need to. Yeah, so this folding mechanism, at the start you will notice that it is quite stiff to undo and do, but over time as you fold the e-scooter and fold it back up, it will definitely get easier and easier. From what I've experienced after riding 100 kilometers, I actually love it. It's very fun, goes very fast. Now the range, if it was what the estimate says, it would be decent. For my personal circumstances, it doesn't go that far, but obviously I'm pushing the limits when it comes to the weight, etc. capabilities, and there's a lot of uphills here which do take a lot of battery life off. So someone who's riding it in the city, as it's called, the city commuter, would probably have far longer range on this and a better experience. And other than the things I would change, which is the handlebars, I definitely get changed, because even though they're tightened to the max, they still seem to be a bit loose. And another thing, if they can possibly try and get this to be lighter, that would be great, because at the minute weighing over 30 kilos or 60 pounds, whatever weight you want to use, it's a pain to carry around anywhere and lift up. So if they get them two things fixed in the new model, this thing will be amazing. And if they can even manage to extend the range even more, then that's going to change it 100%. But other than that, I've had so much fun riding this. I'm going to continue riding it around. It's very good for like when you have to do short journeys to places. You don't have to jump in the car or anything like that. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, do hit the subscribe button below. Do like the video so more people can see it. And let me know in the comments box below if you've got an e-scooter similar, or you're thinking of getting one, or what your thoughts on e-scooters are. And I'll catch you on the next one.